Joe, thanks so much for joining me this morning. Really want to do a quick, you approached me and said you wanted to do an athlete testimony. So this will be the beginning of your third season with me. It's now 7 a.m. in the morning. You've already finished your ride today. This is to launch your base season of 2024. And you have done amazing things over these past few seasons in terms of becoming an endurance athlete, in terms of just making yourself healthy, in terms of having fun on the bike, in terms of rocking out events, in terms of getting new bikes, right? So there's a lot of great things to cover today. But first, you have this designation. It's as being my only athlete to complete the Grand Fondo National Series, that the championships that were just held this past September.
Yeah.
And it was a brutal ride. It was far colder. There was sleet. There was lightning. And let me just say, as a coach, this was one of the wildest days of my coaching career, because I'm at a cyclocross race. I'm working with athletes. The cyclocross races start at 7:30 in the morning. I did not look at the weather for that morning in Frederick, Maryland. I did look at it the day before, no red flags. And then everything just got crazy. And what's amazing is so I'm out there at, cyclocross races, running around the course, working with athletes, watching the race, filming, doing all this stuff. And then I start getting texts, like these really weird texts. And so I had 5 guys go into this, 5 guys going for all the glory. And my first text was, hey, I got into an Uber. And, I'm done. And I was shocked. I did not know that the weather conditions went so south on that day. And I'm like, what? You're only at mile 50. What's going on? Like, in my mind, I don't know what's going on. And so then that text came along and he's like, I'm too cold. And then so I just texted him back jokingly, warm up, get back out there and crush this race. Okay. So that was a really weird text. And then remember, I have 5 guys out there. So I get another text. I'm in the hospital. I had one guy crash, went to the hospital. He's like, I'm in the hospital, and they're doing x-rays right now. So that was a crazy text. And then I got another text from another guy saying, yeah, we bailed, and I headed back, right? So he was out there to do the 100-mile course, go for all the glory, go for podiums. And he made it. He did 60 miles for the day. He got to a turnaround point and turned around and went home. And then I had another athlete text me to do the same thing. And so, for me as a coach, I'm out there at the cyclocross races. I can't give that attention that it needs. And, I didn't get it, not until I got home that night was I able to break through. But there was one finisher, right? I'm like, where's Joe? Where's Joe? I haven't heard from Joe. How's Joe? And exactly, right there, man. We got a finisher. That race was just unbelievably brutal due to the weather, due to the sleet. One guy's like, yeah, it was lightning. And so I decided to turn around and go back. So it was brutal, but out of my 5 athletes, you are a finisher. And that's just amazing to me. So Joe, tell me about, before we jump into this, we're going to end with what you have to say about the Grand Fondo National Series. We'll end that for our talk today. But tell me about your career and tell me why you chose coaching.
Great. First, thanks, Lee. I really appreciate this opportunity because I'm just a big believer in what you and your colleagues at Pro 13 do. So it's that simple. So I am a chemistry professor, and I live in central Pennsylvania, and I've been riding a bike for probably about 20 years. And what happened was a few summers ago, this is what brought me to you. I came back from a ride in the middle of the summer, and I was exhausted. I was depleted. I had salt coming off of me. My face was all crusty. I thought something was seriously wrong with me. I thought something was off. It was different. And I'm 54 years old. Maybe it's good for people to know that. So, and I don't have a big history of being an endurance athlete like my whole life. So, what I sent a message, as you know, you might remember, I sent a message to one of the fitness writers for Bicycling Magazine, Celine Yeager, and I described what I just told you. And I said, "Do you have any advice?" And she shot back immediately and said, "I sure do. It sounds like you need a coach."
Yeah.
And she says, it doesn't sound like you ride with any structure. It's you're either going way too hard or way too easy, and you don't really have much of a plan. And
Right.
that's what caused me to call you. And it's been a game changer. Not just that, but it's been kind of a life changer. I'm not sure how much depth you want me to go into it. It's
Well,
been
what
a complete shift in mindset on training and riding a bike and getting everything sort of in your life prioritized to fit all that in.
Yeah, so one of the things that was it was great working with you. So, one of the things that I do as a coach, we periodize your year. Okay. We give you structure for your workouts. Every workout has a reason that we're doing on this workout on this specific day in this specific order, paired with other workouts through the week.
Yep.
We slowly built you up, right? We just didn't jump in. We didn't try to cram for the exam or anything like
Right.
that. We slowly progressed your fitness within, light of your life factors and in light of your event goals and what you wanted to achieve as an athlete. And so, you tested, your first FTP test for me was 298, which is for someone who's not an endurance athlete to have an FTP of 300, that's pretty good, right? So that I was really super happy with that. That meant that you had some, you're doing some things right in your 24/7 in your daily life in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of your culture of eating, in terms of your culture of sleeping, just your life. And it really spoke well of you that you could go pretty far. And so, your first test was 298, and we have gotten you so far up to 330 over the past 2 seasons. And so you got up to, I don't know, it was like 320 your first season. And then, we got you up to 330 last year.
That's right.
And then, yeah. And so then we want to just keep adding 5 watts. The higher you go, as a master's athlete with your FTP, the shorter the gains every year. But I do not think that you are fully tapped out, and we're going to keep that ball rolling. But we worked on a lot of different things with you, right? So we worked on your fatigue resistance. We worked on your ability to drop some bombs at the end of a long day. So you like to do long events, those
Yep.
6 hour, 7 hour events. And that's what, where you really want to shine. And so we worked on that, and you gave me, it's funny. It's like when you think about, all these workouts from all these different athletes that I have out there doing this, one of the favorite workouts that stick in my mind or event or any single thing that any athlete has ever done for me and for you was, I gave you a workout. We built you up over several months, several months, several months. And so the workout was basically, 6 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours at zone 2, and then 1 hour at zone 3. And that is actually sounds pretty easy, zone 2, zone 3. But actually, if you want to drop a major hour of tempo
Yeah.
at the end of, 5, 6 hours of work, that's actually pretty hard, right? You get to mile 80, you do zone 2 all the way up to mile 80. And then from mile 80 to mile 100, you're dropping tempo, dropping bombs left and right. And, you were nervous about this. Like we
I
had a
sure was.
call.
I'm never going to forget that. When I saw that on the calendar, I'm like, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, tell me about that because you nailed it, right? You got done. And like to me, like for any athlete that I've ever worked with as a coach, just a workout on a Saturday, like that was one of my proudest moments as a
Oh, wow. Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
seeing you rock that out. So tell me about that day.
Yeah. No, like I said, when I saw that on the calendar, I'm like, what are you doing here? This is crazy. Who's going to do this? And So I the other thing I think was good is I really had to plan that. I couldn't just jump on my bike and head out into the road and just make it up as I was going along. I had to really be strategic. Where am I going to ride? Where am I going to get? It was basically planning for a race. Where am I going to reload on my nutrition? And yeah, the way this ride was, I think you had me doing 5 hours of just go out and zone two endurance. So I live in central Pennsylvania. It's probably okay to divulge where I live, and so we've got some hills and a lot of rolling terrain. So I basically went out for 5 hours all around the valley where I live, and it was beautiful. But it was to do that for 5 hours was pretty tiring. And then I had my nutrition back in my car, went back, got reloaded, got something to eat, relaxed a little bit, and then it was at one of, I think you call it, is it the out like the Tower of Power, where
Hour
I
of power.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
it was zone three, but then there were periods where I was pushing it even higher. So it's like sort of
Yeah.
getting ready to finish a race.
Zone 3 with bursts. So the hour of power with bursts over FTP. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was it. And I tell you, when I remember when I finished that, it was like I had this adrenaline rush when I was done. I thought I was just going to collapse and be exhausted, but it was such an accomplishment. It was such a rush to know that I could do that. And I'll never forget one of the first things you said to me when we talked is this training, since it's all new to me, is really going to cause me to face my fears, and in a good way, in a good way.
Right.
So yeah, I was
Right.
nervous about that butterflies for days beforehand, but it was such a sense of accomplishment. It was
Yeah.
it was a turning point for me, and I was
Yeah.
glad you gave it to me.
Yeah, and that's a concept called fatigue resistance, where we work on your fatigue and we help you drop bombs at the end. Some people call it durability, right? And so that's when people come to endurance athletes come to me new. And then I look at their work and I look at their events, and you could just see, like, yeah, you went out way too hard and you died 1,000 deaths to get to the end, right? And you crossed the finish line. You weren't crushing the finish line. You were crawling across the finish line, crush versus crawl. And so my whole, one of my major themes as a coach is to reverse all that, right? I want you to crush that end. I want you to crush that finish line. Even if it's 100 miles, I want you to crush that finish line through pacing, and through proper nutrition, through proper hydration. We work on hydration, we work on nutrition, all that great stuff. And you crushed it. And your nickname is Joe Smash. And I even think that you were just like, Joe Smash. You sent me a text like, Joe Smash, Joe Smash, Joe Smash. You were all excited and just ready to go. And so that, like, I will never forget that ride, because you
Yeah, that was good.
were like, you said you had the butterflies, you said you were nervous, and I love to communicate with athletes. I love when athletes communicate with me, and you communicated that with me very clearly, that you were nervous about that ride.
Yeah.
But, like, of all the rides that any athlete has ever done for me, that was like, I will go to my grave
Wow.
thinking
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
ride,
Awesome.
because that
Awesome.
was an amazing ride, because you are
Yeah.
in central Pennsylvania. It is all up and down. Like, it's there's no flat. Like, it
Yeah.
is all up and down, all rollers. It's very similar train to what I train and live in. And so that was a great day, and I'll never forget it. So, hey, let's talk about Grand Fondo National Series, because that was another great day where you sent me a text. I had 4 athletes that didn't make it. One went into the hospital. And then there was you at the end. You sent me a picture. Like, you didn't know that all that my other athletes didn't finish. You had no idea. And so you sent me this picture. You were in a short sleeve jersey, no rain jacket, nothing, just with the biggest smile on your face. But yeah, that was a brutal day. There were so many DNFs on that day. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about that day.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that the one that got in the accident was okay.
Yes.
That was great. Yeah. So this was my fifth race. This is my last race of the season. So I've got some T-shirts and some other ones here. But and again, at 54, doing 5 races in a season. I mean, I know we're going to do more, but that was so great. But the Grand Fondo is in Frederick, Maryland. And the way it's set up, and maybe everybody's watching this already knows this, it's a segment race. So basically, the strategy is pace, and then there's 4 segments where you just want to drop the hammer and go out. And I remember at the starting line, we're all lining up. Everybody's a little nervous, packed in there like sardines in the holding pen and all that, getting ready for getting all your instructions from the USA cycling folks. And it starts to sprinkle. And I look over at one of the guys there. I said, "Should we be worried about this?" And he just sort of looked at me and just shook his head, like, "Don't ask." Like, okay, this is going to be a long day. So we go out and it starts sprinkling, and then it starts coming down a little bit more. But again, it was one of those, I've ridden in all kinds of conditions since I've been working with you. I mean, outside all winter. So once I got rolling, it was fine. I was getting a little chilly, but it was, again, it was another one of those, once I was in it, kind of like that big epic ride we just discussed, the conditions didn't matter all that much. And I ended up doing better this year in those conditions by a long shot than I did last year.
Yeah, you hit all your PRs, which is amazing. And so
Yeah.
I do track your indoor versus outdoor data. And in the winter in Pennsylvania, you are able to get about 70% of your time outdoors. Okay. And so in the base period, I like some trainer work. I definitely don't want someone to be always outdoors on the bike through the winter.
Right.
I definitely like. And so you had this perfect blend. I have some athletes there, 80, if we look at their, accumulated TSS for the year, they're 85% indoors, just simply because where they live. I have one gentleman who lives in Wisconsin, and he's just 85% of his time indoors. And so you are 70% of your winter outside.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I love it. That's exactly the way I train as well. I get out as much as I can as well. Well, how did you feel when you finished that? So you finish,
Yeah.
and you don't know that you're my only athlete to finish of the day, and everybody was super trained up for this day. You hit your all-time PRs. You finished. That has to be the best feeling.
It was. Again, it was just, it was such a great way to cap off the season. And that's one thing I just love about these races. It just brings everything and just all into focus, all the nervousness, all the preparation that you have to think about, like what are you going to do the day before. So all those details, you line them up and you just focus. You're able to focus on what's in front of you, and that's been another big thing for me, is make all that other stuff routine so you can put the energy where it belongs, on the pedals.
Yeah, that's well
And
said. That's well said.
it was just a thrill at the end. I mean, the guy at the end that was taking pictures, it was just like an eruption of emotion at the end. I mean, I really, it was very emotional to finish that ride, because the last 10 miles or so, the rain just poured on us. It just dumped
Yeah.
coming back into
And
town.
it was that and the combination of the temperatures that were actually colder than what they were forecasted. And then so yeah, it not only to hit your PRs, but to crush it, all that great stuff. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today. So I guess let's just end. Would you recommend coaching? And would you recommend coaching with me?
I would, both of those things.
Thank
I mean, in case that isn't obvious after all this discussion that I'm saying, is I don't know how much of a testimony. It's just, I don't know. I can't imagine anybody doing this on their own. I mean, sure, you can go read all the books you want, which is great. You can read your Joe Friel, you can read it, but to have somebody like you to set the plan, to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable, and to guide you through, because it's a physical, mental, emotional roller coaster, and I don't know how anybody would do all of that on their own. I just don't see how, and get the benefits out of it and maximize it as much as you can. So it's like I said, I'm in 54 years old, and I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, and I don't think I would ever have come close doing this on my own.
That's crucial. And so, we'll end with this. And so, my coaching, I have several different types of athletes, right? I
Yeah,
have, the young juniors, the young guys going for the national
yeah,
jerseys, going for all the glory, if you will. And then I have a large contingent of master athletes, in their 40s and their 50s. Some come to me very unhealthy. Their doctors are basically like, hey, you're gonna have to get on pills for the rest of your life unless you do something. And so, what a great feeling to be age 54 and potentially be healthier than you were when you were in your 20s, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, for me as an
probably.
athlete, yeah, that's my story. It's so many athletes, in their 50s, that's their story as well. They feel great. They're getting great sleep, something that I focus on. They're eating great. They're on no prescription medications and they're out there crushing events in the storm, the lightning, the sleet, whatever nature throws at them, they're crushing. And so, for me, that's you know that's the long-term aspect of this game that I want, right? So you're not going to race the Tour de France. You're not interested in racing the Tour de France, at least this year. But that's not one of your goals. And so for me as a coach, that's one of the most pleasurable, most enjoyable feelings that I hear from clients is that they're healthy.
Yes,
They're healthy, and
absolutely.
that's what I want for my athletes that I work with. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for my body. I want you guys not only to nail your workouts, nail your cycling, nail PRs, but I really focus on in my coaching that 24/7, what you're doing 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? 365 days a year. Are you getting the sleep? Are you getting proper nutrition outside? Are you recovering well, right? And then how can we tweak all of this stuff,
Yep.
And so you just epitomize that kind of athlete where, like you said, you're 54 years old and you're absolutely crushing it out there. So, Joe, thank you so much for the recommendation. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to 2024, man. We are going to rock it out, dude. Uh,
As do I, Lee. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Ready to
yeah.
go.
Thank you, sir.